So what I tend to do is I use a steel like this just to sort of fold that burr either flat or push it slightly over to this side, and then again I'll rotate the blade and I'll just flatten that burr off like that. Hey everyone, welcome back to Dubious Engineering. A machine that I want to show you, a meat slicer. I know it doesn't sound very interesting, but to me it certainly is. My wife Vicky is from Taiwan and she loves thinly sliced pork in steamboat or hot pot as it might be called, huoguo. What I've done is I've frozen a great lump of pork and I've put it in a meat slicer, and now we're going to go ahead and chop it up, slice it into thin pieces. I've got to be honest, this is just ASMR. It's just beautiful to watch. So we have some magnificent little tubes of pork here, slightly frozen. Those will go into the freezer and they'll get used for a future hot pot. Loads and loads and loads of these things going into the freezer. Happy days. Now comes the icky part. So clearly all of this lot here needs to be washed. We should be able to pull this bed off. There we go. And then we can expose the blade by pressing this button. And this little plastic cover here pops off. And there we have it, the blade. And the blade is relatively easy to get out of here. It's a beautiful circular saw blade. Listen to that. It rings like a bell. Got to admit, that is incredibly sharp. I did sharpen it already, but I'll show you how I sharpen that in a few seconds. The other thing to note here is we've got little bits of yucky meat kicking around all over the place. So we need to give it a good clean up, spray it with a little bit of disinfectant. Got a motor inside here, this die-cast aluminium housing. Then we have some plastic gear sets, a little reduction ratio gear set, which ultimately drive this blade, and the rest of it is all powered by human force. But what an amazing bit of kit. Clearly you've got to make sure you keep all of this stuff clean and sanitized, but you can have thinly sliced beef sandwiches and you're not there trying to cut a piece of beef with a regular knife and failing miserably by cutting it like that. Sharpening this blade, you need to be really, really careful. I've got here a very flat sharpening stone. It's got a diamond metal surface on one side and the other side is literally just the sharpening stone. And what I do is I use that to make sure that that edge there is completely flat and there's no burrs folded over this side. So I effectively just flatten that side of the blade, and you've just got to take your time and you just got to keep working your way around the outside of the blade. A top tip for you with sharpening of any blade, if you want to understand if you're actually making a difference to the sharpening of that blade, just get yourself a little permanent marker or a little whiteboard marker like this. Obviously clean it up afterwards, and When you sharpen that blade, if that marker starts to disappear, you know you're on the right angle. And as you can see there, that marker has mostly gone. Careful now. So I'm going to carry on working my way around that side of the blade. And then later on, careful now, I don't know if you can see that in the light there, but this has got a serrated edge to it. And actually I can probably ping, if you, yeah, can you see my nail gets stuck on that burr? So that burr has been rolled around. So what I tend to do is I use a steel like this, just to sort of fold that burr either flat or push it slightly over to this side, and then again I'll rotate the blade and I'll just flatten that burr off like that. And that will just give you a perfectly straight, razor sharp edge on this cutting disc. And then we can fit it back in the machine. Right, I'll carry on with that process then. Oh my goodness. I tell you what, I can feel that is scary sharp. So, piece of paper, and it is literally just chopping through that paper. That is scary sharp. Righto, time for the reassemble. Obviously I've given that blade a little bit of a clean up with a cloth. Pop the blade back in place, and then that little screw and plastic lug here fits in. These little plastic lugs here make sure that that blade is locked solid in place. And then it's time to fit the cover. And there we have it, all ready to go. And I like to make sure that that blade is lined up nicely with the guide here, so that if you do happen to run your fingers past it, you don't end up slicing your fingers. Let's check out some of this wonderful hot pot.